The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the twinkling of distant stars. Suddenly, a massive shape emerged from the darkness. It was the Zarkonian mothership, a behemoth of advanced alien technology. Its sleek, silver surface gleamed in the light of Earth's sun as it approached the blue planet. On the bridge of the mothership, Commander Zexlor stood tall, his four eyes fixed on the viewscreen. His scaly skin shimmered with excitement. After years of searching, they had finally found a planet that could support life. "Scan the surface," Zexlor ordered, his voice a low growl. His second-in-command, Vexna, nodded and pressed a series of buttons on the control panel. The viewscreen flickered, showing various images of Earth's surface. "Commander, we detect multiple forms of life," Vexna reported. "There appears to be a dominant species." Zexlor leaned forward, his antenna twitching with curiosity. "Show me." The screen zoomed in on a city. Tall buildings reached for the sky, while strange metal objects moved along the ground. "Interesting," Zexlor muttered. "They seem to have some level of technology. Are they a threat?" Vexna shook her head. "Unknown, Commander. We need more information." Zexlor nodded. "Prepare a reconnaissance team. We must learn more before we make contact." As the Zarkonian ship hovered above Earth, unaware of the chaos it was about to cause, life on the planet continued as normal. In a small observatory on top of a hill, Dr. Sarah Thompson yawned and stretched. It had been a long night of stargazing, but as always, it was worth it. She loved the peace and quiet of the night sky. Suddenly, a loud beep from her computer made her jump. Sarah rushed to the screen, her eyes widening as she saw the data. "What in the world?" she whispered. The reading showed a massive object in Earth's orbit, one that hadn't been there before. Sarah's hand shook as she picked up her phone to call her colleague, Dr. Mike Chen. "Mike, you need to see this," she said as soon as he answered. Across the city, in a cozy apartment, Mike groaned as he rolled out of bed. "Sarah, do you know what time it is?" "Forget the time," Sarah insisted. "I've got something huge on the scanners. I think it might be a spacecraft." Mike was suddenly wide awake. "Are you sure? It's not just a satellite or—" "It's too big, Mike, and it just appeared out of nowhere. This could be it. The moment we've been waiting for." Mike's heart raced. "I'll be there in 20 minutes." As the two scientists rushed to confirm their discovery, they had no idea that they were about to become part of one of the biggest events in human history. Meanwhile, in the White House, President Lisa Garcia was in the middle of a late-night meeting when her aide burst into the room. "Madam President," the aide said, breathless, "we've just received word from NASA. There's an unidentified object in Earth's orbit. They believe it to be of extraterrestrial origin." The room fell silent. President Garcia stood up slowly, her face a mask of calm despite the shock she felt. "How certain are they?" she asked. "Very certain, ma'am. The object is too large to be any known satellite or space station, and its sudden appearance." President Garcia nodded. "Alert all relevant agencies, and get me a direct line to NASA. We need to know everything they know." As the room erupted into action, President Garcia walked to the window and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, an alien ship was watching. The world was about to change forever, and she had to make sure humanity was ready. Back on the Zarkonian ship, Zexlor watched as a small scout ship detached from the mothership and began its descent towards Earth. "Remember," he said to the crew, "observe only. Do not engage with the inhabitants. We must learn all we can before we decide our next move." As the scout ship disappeared into Earth's atmosphere, Zexlor couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. First contact was always a delicate matter. He just hoped that these Earthlings were as peaceful as they seemed. Little did he know, the real adventure was about to begin, and it would start with a simple misunderstanding about Earth's most beloved pets. The Zarkonian scout ship glided silently through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to human eyes and radar. Inside, 3 alien scientists peered eagerly at their view screens, taking in the sights and sounds of the strange blue planet. "Look at all the different environments," whispered Zarla, the team's biologist. Her purple eyes widened as they flew over dense forests, vast oceans, and sprawling cities. "This planet is teeming with life." Kextor, the cultural expert, nodded in agreement. "The dominant species seems to have built impressive structures. But look there." He pointed to a park where humans were walking their dogs. "They keep smaller creatures with them, perhaps as protection." The third alien, Mexrin, frowned at his readings. The smaller creatures appeared to be a different species entirely. How curious that they coexist. As they watched, a large dog broke free from its owner and chased after a squirrel, barking loudly. The aliens jumped at the sudden noise. "By the stars," Kextor exclaimed. "Did you hear that sound? It must be a warning cry." Zarla zoomed in on the dog. "Look at those teeth, and the way it moves, so fast and agile. Could this be the planet's apex predator?" Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Sarah Thompson and Dr. Mike Chen were working frantically in their observatory. They had been up all night, tracking the mysterious object in Earth's orbit and trying to make sense of the data. "I've never seen anything like it," Mike said, rubbing his tired eyes. "The way it moves, the energy readings, it's definitely not from Earth." Sarah nodded, her excitement overriding her exhaustion. "We need to tell someone. This is too big to keep to ourselves." Just then, their computer beeped urgently. Sarah rushed over, her eyes widening as she saw the screen. "Mike, look at this." Mike hurried to her side. On the screen, they could see a faint disturbance in the atmosphere, moving at incredible speed. Is that the alien ship?" Mike whispered. Sarah nodded, her hand shaking slightly as she typed. "It must be a smaller craft. It's heading towards... Oh my God, it's heading towards the city." In the White House Situation Room, President Lisa Garcia stood surrounded by her top advisors and military officials. The room was tense, filled with the low murmur of urgent conversations and the beeping of communication devices. "Madam President," General Williams said, his voice grave, "we've detected an anomaly entering Earth's atmosphere. We believe it to be a smaller craft from the larger ship in orbit." President Garcia's face remained calm, but her eyes betrayed her concern. "Where is it heading?" "Towards New York City, Mom. But here's the strange part. We can't actually see it. It's as if it's invisible." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. An invisible alien craft was heading towards one of the most populated cities in the country. "What are our options?" the president asked. "We could attempt to intercept," the general suggested. "But without being able to see it." President Garcia shook her head. "No, we can't risk provoking them. For all we know, this could be a peaceful mission. Continue monitoring the situation, and get me in touch with the mayor of New York. We need to be prepared for anything." As the humans grappled with the reality of alien visitors, the Zarkonian scientists continued their observation, becoming more and more fascinated, and mistaken, about Earth's canine population. "Look at how the humans cower before these creatures," Mexrin observed, watching a man cleaning up after his chihuahua. "They even collect its droppings. These must be the planet's rulers." Zarla nodded in agreement. "And see how they're kept on leashes. The humans must be their servants or guards." Kextor looked concerned. "If these creatures are so powerful, we must inform Commander Zexlor immediately. Our mission could be in danger." As the scout ship turned to head back to the mothership, a golden retriever in a backyard below looked up, sensing something it couldn't see. It let out a friendly woof, wagging its tail at the sky. In the ship, the aliens froze in terror. "It detected us," Zarla gasped. "Quick, back to the ship. We must warn the others about Earth's fearsome beasts." As the scout ship raced back to the mothership, the seeds of a monumental misunderstanding had been sown. The fate of human-alien relations now hung in the balance, all because of a simple case of mistaken identity between man's best friend and humanity itself. Commander Zexlor paced back and forth on the bridge of the Zarkonian mothership, his forearms clasped behind his back. The scout team had just returned with their report, and the news was troubling. "So, you're telling me," Zexlor said, his voice a low rumble, "that Earth is ruled by furry beasts with sharp teeth and powerful vocal abilities." Zarla, the team's biologist, nodded nervously. "Yes, Commander. We observed these creatures being walked on leashes by the bipedal species. They even clean up after them." Kextor, the cultural expert, chimed in. "And their barks, Commander. They could detect our cloaked ship. These dogs, as the bipeds call them, must have incredible sensory abilities." Zexlor's antenna twitched in thought. "This complicates matters. We came here hoping to establish peaceful contact, but if these dogs are as dangerous as you say..." Vexina, Zexlor's second-in-command, stepped forward. "Commander, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. If we're to protect ourselves, we may need to take more aggressive measures." The commander nodded slowly. "You may be right, Vexina. Begin preparations for a defensive strategy. We'll need to be ready for anything." As the Zarkonians bustled about, preparing for a potential confrontation with Earth's most dangerous inhabitants, activity on the planet below was reaching a fever pitch. In New York City, Dr. Sarah Thompson and Dr. Mike Chen had been summoned to a top-secret meeting at a government facility. They sat at a long table, surrounded by military officials and fellow scientists. "So, you're saying you detected a smaller craft entering our atmosphere?" a stern-looking general asked. Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. "Yes, sir. It appeared to be observing various locations around the city before returning to the larger ship in orbit." Mike added, "We believe they're conducting reconnaissance, learning about us before making contact." The room buzzed with murmurs. A woman in a crisp suit stood up. "I'm Dr. Emily Rodriguez, head of Xenobiology at NASA. In your opinion, what are the aliens' intentions?" Sarah and Mike exchanged glances. "It's hard to say." Sarah began cautiously. "But the fact that they haven't made aggressive moves yet could be a good sign. They seem curious, not hostile." Meanwhile, in the White House Situation Room, President Lisa Garcia was in the middle of an emergency meeting with her cabinet and top military advisors. "Madam President," General Williams said, pointing to a large screen showing a blurry image of the Zarkonian mothership, "our latest intel suggests increased activity on the alien vessel. They appear to be preparing for something." The Secretary of Defense leaned forward. "We should strike first, Madam President. We can't risk them having the upper hand." President Garcia shook her head firmly. "No, we will not initiate hostilities. Our priority is to establish communication and understand their intentions." She turned to a woman sitting quietly at the end of the table. "Dr. Patel, you're our top linguist. Any progress on decoding their transmissions?" Dr. Patel adjusted her glasses. "We've detected some signals, Madam President, but they're unlike anything we've ever encountered. It could take weeks, maybe months, to decipher them." The President sighed. "We may not have that much time. We need to find a way to communicate, and fast." Back on the Zarkonian ship, preparations were in full swing. Mexrin, the tech expert from the scout team, was presenting a new invention to Commander Zexlor. "We call it the Canine Communication Disruptor," Mexrin explained, holding up a small glowing device. "It should interfere with the dog's ability to detect us and hopefully neutralize their bark-based communication." Zexlor nodded approvingly. "Excellent work, Mexrin, and our defenses against potential attacks." Vexina stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "We've enhanced our shield technology to repel any projectiles or energy weapons the Earth forces might possess. We've also prepared non-lethal stun weapons to subdue the dogs if necessary. The commander looked around at his crew, a mix of determination and anxiety on their alien faces. "Remember," he said solemnly, "our mission is peaceful exploration. We will defend ourselves if attacked, but we must avoid harming the inhabitants of this world if possible. Even the furry rulers," he added with a slight shudder. As both humans and aliens prepared for their impending encounter, neither side realized the massive misunderstanding that was about to unfold. The fate of two species hung in the balance, all because of a simple misconception about man's best friend. Little did they know, the real challenge wouldn't be ferocious beasts or advanced alien technology, but the task of overcoming their own assumptions and learning to communicate across the vast gulf of interstellar misunderstanding. The sun was just peeking over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the sleepy suburban neighborhood of Millbrook. It was a typical Saturday morning, with people slowly stirring from their beds, ready to start their weekend routines. Little did they know that this day would be anything but typical. High above the earth, Commander Zexlor stood on the bridge of the Zarkonian mothership, his gaze fixed on the blue planet below. "It's time," he announced, his voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Prepare the landing party." Vexna, his loyal second-in-command, nodded and began issuing orders. Within minutes, a sleek, silver craft detached from the mothership and began its descent towards Earth. As the Zarkonian ship entered the atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology flickered and failed, overwhelmed by the planet's magnetic field. Suddenly visible, it streaked across the morning sky like a blazing comet. In the Thompson household, 12-year-old Billy was the first to spot it. "Mom, Dad, look," he shouted, pointing out the window. "A shooting star." Sarah Thompson, still in her pajamas, rushed to the window. Her scientific mind immediately recognized that this was no shooting star. "Oh my God," she whispered, reaching for her phone to call Dr. Chen. Across the street, retired Air Force Colonel Jack Miller grabbed his binoculars for a better look. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Martha," he called to his wife, "get the emergency kit. This ain't no weather balloon." As the alien craft descended, chaos erupted in the quiet neighborhood. Car alarms blared, dogs barked frantically, and people poured out of their homes, pointing and shouting at the sky. Inside the Zarkonian ship, the alien crew was equally frantic. "Commander," Mexrin reported, "our cloaking device has malfunctioned. We're visible to the Earth population." Zexlor's antenna twitched nervously. "Calm yourselves," he ordered. "We've prepared for this. Activate the canine communication disruptor. We can't let those furry beasts alert their entire army." As the ship touched down in the middle of Maple Street, a strange, high-pitched whine filled the air. To the aliens' relief, the barking of the neighborhood dogs suddenly ceased. The landing ramp lowered with a hiss, and Commander Zexlor stepped out, flanked by Vexna and the science team. Their appearance was both awe-inspiring and terrifying to the watching humans. Tall, slender beings with 4 arms, scaly blue skin, and large, multifaceted eyes. "Greetings, Earth-dwellers," Zexlor announced, his words translated by a device on his chest. "We come in peace and wish to speak with your leaders." His eyes darted around nervously, searching for signs of the dreaded dogs they had observed earlier. The crowd of humans stood in stunned silence, mouths agape. Then, a small voice piped up. "Cool. Real aliens," Billy Thompson exclaimed, pushing his way to the front of the crowd. Sarah grabbed her son's arm. "Billy, no." But it was too late. The boy was already approaching the aliens, his eyes wide with wonder. Zexlor and his crew tensed, ready for an attack. But instead of a ferocious beast, they were confronted by a small, harmless-looking human child. "Hi, I'm Billy," the boy said, grinning widely. "Are you really from outer space? Do you have laser guns? Can I see your spaceship?" The aliens exchanged confused glances. This was not the reception they had expected. Just then, a golden retriever broke free from its owner's grasp and bounded towards the group, barking excitedly. The Zarkonians recoiled in terror. "Protect the commander," Vexna shouted, raising her stun weapon. "No, wait," Sarah cried, rushing forward. "He's friendly. Max, come here, boy." To the alien's amazement, the dog stopped at Sarah's command, sat down, and wagged its tail happily. Zexlor blinked his 4 eyes in confusion. "You control these beasts." Sarah nodded slowly, beginning to understand the misunderstanding. "They're not beasts. They're pets. Companions. This is Max, our dog." As the tension slowly began to dissipate, sirens could be heard in the distance. The authorities were on their way. Colonel Miller stepped forward, his military training kicking in. "Folks, we need to establish a perimeter. Dr. Thompson, you seem to have a rapport with our visitors. Think you can keep them calm until the government arrives?" Sarah nodded, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "I'll do my best." As the neighborhood buzzed with excitement and fear, humans and aliens alike realized that this was just the beginning of a very strange, very long day. The fate of 2 species now rested on the shoulders of a suburban mom, a curious boy, and a friendly golden retriever named Max. The quiet suburban street of Maple Avenue had transformed into a scene of controlled chaos. Curious neighbors peered from behind hastily erected police barricades, smartphones held high to capture the historic moment. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like metal flowers. At the center of it all stood the sleek Zarkonian spacecraft, surrounded by a mix of local police, military personnel, and wide-eyed civilians. Commander Zexlor and his crew huddled near their ship, still wary of the humans, but no longer in a panic about imminent dog attacks. Dr. Sarah Thompson had taken on the role of impromptu ambassador, standing between the aliens and the growing crowd of officials. Her son Billy sat cross-legged on the ground nearby, happily petting Max, the family's golden retriever. "So let me get this straight," Sarah said, trying to hide her amusement. "You thought dogs were Earth's dominant species." Zexlor's antenna twitched in embarrassment. "We observed them being walked on leashes, their droppings being collected. We assumed they were revered leaders." A snort of laughter escaped Colonel Miller, who quickly composed himself. "Well, I suppose my wife would agree about our Rufus being the boss of our household." Just then, a black SUV pulled up, and a stern-looking woman in a crisp suit stepped out. "I'm Agent Carter, FBI," she announced, flashing her badge. "Dr. Thompson, I need you to step aside. We'll take it from here." Sarah stood her ground. "With all due respect, Agent Carter, I don't think that's a good idea. We've just started to build trust here." As the 2 women argued, neither noticed Billy sneaking away, Max trotting faithfully behind him. The boy approached the alien ship, his eyes wide with wonder. "Wow," Billy whispered, reaching out to touch the smooth metal surface. "This is so cool." Suddenly, a loud alarm blared from the ship. Zexlor spun around, his 4 eyes widening in horror. "The boy has activated the defense systems," he cried. Panic erupted. Agent Carter drew her weapon, shouting for Billy to get back. Sarah screamed her son's name, trying to rush forward but held back by Colonel Miller. "No," Zexlor shouted, his translator barely keeping up with his panicked words. "The system is designed to release our most powerful weapon against the planet's dominant species." Time seemed to slow down as a panel on the ship slid open. Everyone held their breath, expecting some terrifying alien monster or devastating weapon to emerge. Instead, a small, fluffy creature hopped out. It looked like a cross between a rabbit and a kitten, with big, adorable eyes and soft, blue fur. Billy's face lit up. "Aw, it's so cute," he exclaimed, reaching out to pet it. "No, don't touch it," Zexlor warned. "That's a fluffgore, the most feared predator on our homeworld." But it was too late. Billy's hand made contact with the fluffgore's fur, and nothing happened. The creature simply nuzzled against the boy's hand, purring contentedly. Max, curious about the new arrival, patted over and gave the fluffgore a friendly sniff. To everyone's surprise, the alien creature responded by playfully bopping the dog's nose with its paw. A moment of stunned silence fell over the crowd, broken only by Billy's delighted giggle. Vexna turned to Zexlor, confusion evident in her multifaceted eyes. "Commander, I don't understand. The fluffgore was supposed to unleash devastation upon our enemies." Zexlor shook his head, bewilderment clear on his alien features. "It seems, Vexna, that we have much to learn about this planet and its inhabitants." Sarah, who had finally broken free and rushed to her son, couldn't help but laugh. "Well, Commander, it looks like your beast is more interested in cuddles than conquest." As the tension slowly dissipated, replaced by a mixture of relief and amusement, Agent Carter holstered her weapon. "Dr. Thompson," she said with a sigh, "I think you'd better continue handling this situation. It seems your unorthodox approach is working." Colonel Miller chuckled, patting Max on the head. Who would have thought? Alien invasion averted by a boy, a dog, and a cosmic case of mistaken identity. As humans and aliens alike gathered around Billy, Max, and the fluffgore, the air filled with a mixture of laughter, barks, and the peculiar purring of the alien creature. It was clear that this was just the beginning of a very strange, very wonderful new chapter in human history. Zexlor, watching the scene unfold, felt a new emotion stirring within him. Perhaps, he thought, this mission of peace might turn out better than he could have ever imagined. With a gesture to his crew, he stepped forward, ready to truly begin their first contact with the people of Earth. Misunderstandings, fluffgores, and all. The scene on Maple Avenue had transformed from a potential alien invasion to something resembling a bizarre intergalactic petting zoo. The fluffgore, the supposed terrifying beast from the Zarkonian world, was now the center of attention, surrounded by curious humans and equally puzzled aliens. Billy sat cross-legged on the grass, the fluffgore curled contentedly in his lap. Max, the Thompson's golden retriever, lay nearby, his tail wagging lazily as he watched the proceedings with canine curiosity. "So, you really thought this little guy was dangerous?" Billy asked, scratching behind the fluffgore's fuzzy ears. The creature purred in response, a sound somewhere between a cat's meow and a bird's chirp. Commander Zexlor nodded, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. "On our world, the fluffgore is a feared predator. Its cute appearance lures in unsuspecting prey before it strikes." Sarah Thompson knelt down beside her son, her scientific curiosity piqued. "Fascinating. It must have evolved differently here on Earth. The atmospheric composition, gravity, or even our planet's magnetic field could have altered its behavior." Agent Carter, who had been watching the scene unfold with a mixture of disbelief and amusement, stepped forward. "As interesting as this is, we need to discuss the bigger picture. We have an alien spacecraft in the middle of suburban America, and the press is going to have a field day." As if on cue, a bold reporter ducked under the police tape, microphone in hand. "Excuse me, this is Lois Lane from the Daily Planet. Can you comment on the nature of this alien visit? Are we facing an invasion or a peaceful first contact?" Before Agent Carter could intervene, Billy piped up. "It's okay. They're friendly. They just got confused about dogs. And look, they'd brought us a space puppy." The reporter blinked, then turned her attention to the fluffgore. "Oh my, what a cute pup," she exclaimed, momentarily forgetting her professional demeanor. Zexlor's antenna twitched in surprise. "Pup? You mean, you see our mighty fluffgore as a young canine?" Colonel Miller chuckled. "Well, it's small, fluffy, and seems pretty playful. Sounds like a puppy to me." Vexna, who had been quietly observing, suddenly had an idea. "Commander, what if the fluffgore's behavior on our world was a defense mechanism? Perhaps it only acted aggressively because it felt threatened. A murmur of agreement rippled through both the human and alien crowds. The theory made sense, bridging the gap between the Zarkonians' experience and the creature's current behavior. As the adults discussed the implications of this revelation, more children from the neighborhood had gathered around Billy and the Fluffgore. The alien creature seemed to be in its element, playfully rolling around and accepting pets from all directions. "You know," Sarah said thoughtfully, "this misunderstanding about dogs and now the Fluffgore, it shows how easily we can misinterpret things when we encounter a new culture or species. Maybe this is a lesson for all of us about not jumping to conclusions." Agent Carter nodded reluctantly. "I hate to admit it, but you're right, Dr. Thompson. This could have gone very differently if we'd acted on our initial fears." Meanwhile, Zexlor was having a revelation of his own. Watching the Fluffgore interact peacefully with the humans and their dogs, he realized how close they had come to a disastrous first contact based on false assumptions. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have much to learn from Earth and its inhabitants. Your ability to befriend and coexist with other species is admirable." Just then, a commotion near the ship caught everyone's attention. One of the Zarkonian scientists, Mexrin, emerged with an armful of what looked like high-tech gadgets. "Commander," Mexrin called excitedly, "I've been analyzing our data, and I believe I can modify our universal translators to communicate with the Earth canines." A hush fell over the crowd, broken only by Max's curious woof. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "You mean, you think you can talk to dogs?" Mexrin nodded enthusiastically. "It's just a matter of decoding their vocal patterns and body language. With your permission, we'd like to try." As Mexrin approached Max with the modified translator, humans and aliens alike held their breath. The golden retriever tilted his head, looking curiously at the device. A series of barks and whines emerged from Max's mouth, translated in real time by Mexrin's device. "Hello, you smell interesting. Do you have treats?" "I like treats. And belly rubs. And chasing squirrels." For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then laughter erupted from both species. The ice was well and truly broken. As the sun began to set on this extraordinary day, it was clear that this was just the beginning of a remarkable journey of discovery and friendship between Earth and Zarkon. And it all started because of a cute pup, both earthly and alien. As the sun rose on Maple Avenue the next morning, it illuminated a scene that would have been unimaginable just 24 hours earlier. The Zarkonian spacecraft gleamed in the early light, surrounded by a mix of military tents, news vans, and curious onlookers. But the most striking sight was the group gathered on the Thompsons' front lawn. Commander Zexlor sat cross-legged on a picnic blanket, his forearms cradling a mug of steaming coffee. Beside him, Dr. Sarah Thompson was animatedly explaining the concept of a barbecue to a fascinated Vexna. Billy and a group of neighborhood kids were teaching some young Zarkonians how to play fetch with Max and the other local dogs. The Fluffgore, now affectionately nicknamed Fluffy by Billy, bounced between groups, soaking up attention from humans and aliens alike. Agent Carter approached the group, looking slightly less stern than the day before. "Commander Zexlor, Dr. Thompson, I've just gotten off the phone with the President. She's approved a formal cultural exchange program between Earth and Zarkon." Sarah's eyes lit up with excitement. "That's wonderful news. What does this mean for our new friends?" "It means," Agent Carter said with a small smile, "that we're officially welcoming the Zarkonians as our guests. We'll be setting up a proper diplomatic mission, and there's talk of student exchange programs, scientific collaborations, the works." Zexlor's antenna twitched happily. "This is more than we could have hoped for. We came seeking peaceful contact, and we found not just peace, but friendship." Just then, Mexrin hurried over, waving a tablet-like device. "Commander, Dr. Thompson, you must see this. We've made a breakthrough in our canine communication studies." Everyone gathered around as Mexrin activated the device. Max trotted over, tail wagging, and let out a series of barks that the device translated. Friends, play, food, chase ball. The group erupted in laughter and excited chatter. Colonel Miller, who had been helping coordinate with the military, shook his head in amazement. You know, when I woke up yesterday, I never thought I'd be hearing a dog's thoughts. What's next? Translating cat meows. Vexna's eyes widened. There's another species we haven't met yet. Tell us more about these cats. As Sarah began explaining the concept of cats to the enthralled aliens, a news crew from the Daily Planet approached. Lois Lane, microphone in hand, asked, Commander Zex Lore, how do you think this cultural exchange will benefit both our worlds? Zex Lore considered for a moment before responding. On Zarkon, we have a saying. Understanding grows in the garden of diversity. Here on Earth, we've already learned so much about your species, about your animal companions, and even about our own preconceptions. I believe this exchange will help both our worlds grow in ways we can't yet imagine. Billy, overhearing this, piped up, yeah, and maybe we can teach the Zarkonians how to play baseball. Or they could teach us some cool space games. Lois laughed, charmed by the boy's enthusiasm. It seems like the younger generation is already embracing this intergalactic friendship. As the morning wore on, more and more people from both species mingled, sharing stories, comparing cultures, and finding common ground. The Zarkonian scientists were particularly fascinated by Earth's diverse ecosystems, while human tech enthusiasts marveled at the alien gadgets. Sarah, taking a moment to observe the scene, felt a wave of optimism wash over her. You know, she said to no one in particular, this all started because of a misunderstanding about dogs. But look at where it's led us. Agent Carter nodded, a rare smile on her face. I guess sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to make us appreciate what we have. Who knew our furry friends would be the key to intergalactic diplomacy? As if on cue, Max bounded over, followed by a group of laughing children, both human and Zarkonian. The golden retriever dropped a well-chewed tennis ball at Zex Lore's feet, looking up expectantly. The alien commander, after a moment's hesitation, picked up the ball with one of his four hands. Like this, he asked, tossing it gently. Max took off after the ball, barking happily, as cheers erupted from the watching crowd. In that moment, watching an alien play fetch with a dog, surrounded by the laughter and chatter of two species coming together, it was clear that a new chapter in human history had begun. And it all started with a simple misunderstanding. A brave boy and a cute pup, both earthly and alien. As the day continued, full of new discoveries and budding friendships, one thing was certain. The future was bright, and it was going to be an adventure unlike any other. The universe, it seemed, was full of surprises, and maybe, just maybe, full of friends waiting to be made.